Hey everyone, I'm Ryan Dalgliesh, the teaching pastor at the 456. We hope that you're holding up okay. We know that this has been going on for over a month now, and people are getting a little bit stir crazy, and it is, I know for some people it's been a very difficult time. I know that some people are losing their jobs, and people are worried about money, even the basics of how they're gonna take care of their family. One of the things that we wanna remind you of is you're not alone. And if you're watching this video, if you're part of our church family, if you're not part of our church family, it doesn't matter. We want to be able to serve you. And so if there's something that we can do, if there's a way that we can help, please don't have a need that you're not telling somebody about. If there's a need that you have, let us know. Let us be able to help you and let us be able to serve you. I want to talk for a little bit with you today just about relationships. Here in a couple of days, it'll be the 1st of May, and we're going to be starting our brand new series. And we're gonna do a series on relationships through the month of May. Kind of just some practical teaching. It's gonna come out of Ephesians 5 and 6, which deals a lot about the church in Ephesus submitting one to another, husbands submitting to wives, wives submitting to husbands, kids to parents, how parents should treat kids. The Bible talks about masters and slaves. We'll talk about bosses and employees, those kinds of things. But I want to deal a little bit with relationships. See, this is something that all of us have relationships. We might not have a lot of really close personal friends or close personal relationships, but we have some sort of idea, of relationships, be it our parents, be it our children, our spouse. And some of those have been really a blessing to us, and some of those have been really difficult. And it's difficult, I think, to know how we should always respond to different situations, because it's really hard to come to a relationship without kind of taking it personally. Somebody that's really close to us offends us, somebody that's really close to us wounds us, and we find ourselves saying, well, you don't know what they did to me, or you don't know how they treated me, or you have no idea. Anyway, how do we as Christians, and this is the conversation we want to begin over this next month, but how do we as Christians begin to approach relationships with the gospel as the central theme to the relationship, rather than our own preservation or our own ego or our own comfort? How do we approach a marriage relationship with the gospel at its core? How do we raise kids with the gospel at its core? How do we have a relationship with our employees or our employer with the gospel at the core? And wanting to know what that's like. One of the best pieces of advice that I got right before I got married, I was 31 when I met Michelle, and Micah's dad did our premarital counseling in our wedding. And one of the things that he said to us in our premarital counseling was, don't go into the marriage with expectations of each other. Because what you're gonna find is that you're often disappointed because the other person's not meeting your expectations. One of the best pieces of advice I was ever given, and whenever I do weddings now, I share that with other people, that what we tend to do is we tend to put our expectations of life and marriage and kids and employment, whatever, we tend to put that on everybody around us. We tend to put our preferences on the people around us. And instead of doing that, what would it look like if the expectation we had for ourselves and for others was, I want them to know and love Jesus? What if that became kind of the baseline for everything that we did? And so, yes, we have our kids clean up their rooms, but a clean room or a messy room doesn't determine how we feel about them or how we treat them or how we behave towards them, because what we have in mind is, I want my kid to grow up knowing Jesus. I think it's interesting, especially as a parent, that a lot of times we are making battles of little things that don't really need to be battles, right? And they didn't eat all of their lunch, so you absolutely can't have the cookie kind of thing, or whatever. Or we make big battles about things with our spouses that aren't particularly battles. And one of the things that I've worked hard on, and I'm still working on, it's something that I have to daily remind myself of, but I really only have one goal. It's the same goal for my wife and my kids that I have for myself, and that is, the goal that I have for me is that I would honor Jesus, that I would proclaim Jesus with my life. And that's the goal that I have for Michelle, and that's the goal that I have for my boys. And so when we frame a relationship around Christ rather than around our own expectations, it begins to give us Well, one of the things that it does is it removes a lot of opportunities for arguments and bickering. There are a lot of things that now I can dismiss because this thing that was done or not done doesn't change who Christ is. The relationship isn't won or lost because dishes got done or because I cooked dinner or because the lawn got mowed or didn't get mowed, or, I mean, my goodness, we've lived in our new house for 6 months, and I have like 5 boxes still in my corner of the bedroom that haven't been unpacked. I unpacked like 2 of them yesterday, and I joked with Michelle, I was like, good, now you'll like me for another month because I cleaned up a little bit more. But the reason that Michelle can laugh at that too, instead of being like, yeah, I wish you'd clean up the rest, is because she knows that the boxes in the corner don't frame our relationship. Christ frames our relationship. The reason that my son yesterday didn't like his lunch and I was able to fix him something different and gave him some healthy options, like there are things that I as an adult still don't like to eat. Like I can tell you that you're probably not ever gonna get me to eat Brussels sprouts. They smell like feet. I just have zero interest in that. And you're gonna message me and say, but I have the perfect Brussels sprouts recipe. I truly don't care. I just don't. I'll eat green beans, which my wife loathes. Give me a big green salad, that'll be fine. Broccoli I can handle. Okra, not fried, but baked I can handle. I like it fried too. But my point being, like, we had some steak at lunch yesterday, and my son has just never really liked steak. He finds it too tough. And so I gave him some turkey instead. And instead of that being a battle, my goal for my son isn't, hey, you need to eat like I eat. My goal for my son is that he would proclaim Jesus. And I happen to believe that my son can honor Jesus eating turkey, you know? And so here's my point, right? What we tend to do is we tend to make our relationships about these little micro things that don't sway the kingdom of heaven at all, that don't have an impact on someone's relationship with Jesus at all. And we tend to make our entire relationship about all those things. Song of Solomon has this little piece of wisdom, this little nugget that I think is brilliant. And he's speaking of marriage, of course, but he says, catch for us the little foxes that ruin the vineyard. And I would like us just to be mindful that most of the things that cause us to feel unrest in our relationships are the little foxes, the little things that don't actually carry weight. And so join us over the next 5 weeks, stream it live with us, or if we're allowed to start meeting in person again, we'll do that soon. But join us for the next 5 weeks in May as we talk about relationships and talk about how to frame relationships in light of the gospel instead of in light of our own expectations and our own nuances and our own preferences. One other thing to keep in mind, it'll be brand new to you. We as the staff, Pierce and Micah and myself, we have decided that we wanted to do a monthly podcast. And we're gonna be discussing some different topics. And we've decided that for our May podcast, since we're doing this whole sermon series on relationships, our May podcast is also gonna be on relationships. And what we would love for you to do is send a few questions to us that we can try to discuss and bring some clarity to in the podcast. We'd love for you to give us some ideas of some things to talk about in that podcast. It'd be really helpful for us as we start this new kind of venture. And we're really excited to share it with you. We talked a lot about it today, and we're really excited to be able to have that as an extra venue for us to just share with you and to show you Christ and encourage you and challenge you, and at the same time be challenged ourselves. And so start thinking about relationships. Join us live for our stream on Sunday morning at 10:30. And begin to, over this next month, let's pray that God would reframe our relationships from being about our expectations and our preferences to being about the glory of Christ and about the gospel of Jesus. And then if you have some questions or some thoughts about what we can discuss in our first podcast, send those our way so that we can begin to compile this. Thank you so much. We love you guys, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Have a good day.